Today I'll be planting around 3 dozen Anemone decon Mr. Fokker corms. Corms are underground stems that are like little storage packets for plants. You could see that they have quite a range of funky shapes. And when you receive them, they are rather dry but firm like a stone fruit pit. I found it unnecessary to soak them before planting, but it's advisable to let them soak in lukewarm water for at least a few hours to activate them more quickly. After you do that, they'll start to plump up. I'm in zone 5, 6, and we'll be planting them in early spring for early summer blooms. These are only hardy to zones 7 through 10, so if you want to see them next year, you'll need to lift them in the fall in zones 3 through 6. I'm planting them in 1 inch or 2 under the soil in full sun, though this area that I'm planting them in gets more afternoon shade during the summer months. These are really handsome plants. I happened to get them, maybe a year or 2 ago, and I planted them. I didn't lift them because they aren't hardy enough to our zone, but they are beautiful plants, really beautiful kind of bluish purple color with dark centers. They come pretty dry. It's advisable to soak them. So I soak them for a few hours, maybe like 3 or 4 hours. Although I don't think you have to, because the first time I planted them, they seemed pretty firm. I planted them up right away, and boy, were their blooms very pretty. So I planted them in this garden, albeit on the opposite side, so I'm going to try to plant them over here. It does get slightly different sun and slightly different water regime, but I am going to experiment. I want to experiment with these. They make beautiful cut flowers as well. If you're into that and you want a little vase of these, they hold up pretty well. And I think I might have to lift them this year because I bought quite a few of them now. I would say maybe 3 dozen or so, and they look so good planted together in a clump. So I'm going to put these roughly maybe 2 inches down in the soil, and then I'll probably spread them out maybe 3 to 4 inches because I do like them clumped up quite a bit and like planted in drifts. And I may stake out a few different places in here to plant them so they're not all in one little clump, and maybe I have a few different clumps within this garden bed. But yeah, I'm eager to get these planted before I have to travel back home to Brooklyn. So I have some other bulbs that are planted in this area, so I'm going to try not to dig them up, but some of their green bits are actually sticking up right now, so that's really telling me where they are. So that's really good because I could kind of plant these in between some of the other plants that are coming up now. I'm just going to give this a little bit of biotone, just a little hint of it in the hole, and these should start blooming this summer, which will be really nice. So they won't be blooming this spring, but they will be blooming this summer. And they're kind of cute, these little bulbs. They're kind of all wrinkly and crinkly and amoeboid shape and everything along those lines. So, but like I said, incredible bloom. So if you get your hands on some of these, I would try planting them in your garden. And if you don't mind digging them up, then you'll have them for next year if you're not in a hardy enough zone, or if you want, just kind of leave them in the earth and let them become compost and get some more the following year. You know, again, you have to kind of remember where you plant them. Now, if you're planting them in containers, then that's a little bit easier because you know where to fish them out. I can feel the cold winds coming in, so I really want to get these into the ground quickly. You see some animal digging a hole in here. I think it's probably our resident chipmunks. I have lots of what looks like tulips coming up here. So I'm gonna plant these in between the tulips. Okay, so we are out here in, what is it, mid-June, I guess, and we have seen some of our Mr. Fokker anemones that have come up, and I think what was really interesting is these anemones are not supposed to be hardy to our zone, but we had a really light winter, and you could see that some of them actually bloomed really early. So these are the ones that I had planted like last year, and they started to come up. And they had already bloomed and showed them earlier in the video. But then the ones that we planted this year have come up, and look how beautiful they are. I just kind of dotted them throughout the garden, and they're coming up in kind of different stages. So I'm actually hopeful that some of these will, you know, basically come up next year, especially if we have a warmer winter. What's interesting though is, as you could see, this one has more petals than this. So this one has like, you know, kind of single petals, and this looks like it has more double. So, and this was all kind of in the, you know, similar batch of flowers. So that's pretty interesting. Let's see if some of them came up over here, because I did dot throughout. Yes, actually you see a number of ones coming up through here. Now this is unfortunately some of our lilies. This is not from the lily leaf beetle. What happened is that these came up and then we had that freeze. And I noticed right after that freeze, all of these started to tilt and lilt, which is unfortunate. That's another story for another day. But look at all these anemones coming up, and these look like they emerged a little slightly later than over there, because this doesn't get as much, this gets shaded more by these trees. But they're all dotted all throughout here, which is really nice. So again, this is our memorial garden, and haven't tackled beyond there. It's like a whole weedy mess beyond here. But here it's starting to look really good. I have to come in here and maybe pick out some grasses and dandelions along the edges, but otherwise I love how this turned out. And I'm very happy to see those plants come up, and I'm happy to see the ones that I stand corrected. You know, I said it's not hardy to this zone and you're supposed to lift them, but because we had a warm winter, they seem to come up fine. So zone 5, 6, that's what we are here, and I think they're usually hardy to zone 7, I believe. So yeah, that's the latest and greatest.
Feel free to follow along on our journey here at Flock by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notifications button. Your viewership matters, as 10% of our Google AdSense proceeds are reinvested back into community programs here in the Finger Lakes. And that's matched by our partners over at Espoma Organic. So your viewership of our channel truly matters. We'll see you in the next video.